Hey, what's up? It's RME. In this video, we're going to be covering how to use the Alesis HD24 with a hardware mixer, how to connect it using the Adat ports, and also how to use an RME 802 interface and connect it with Adat ports. So this is perfect if you are connecting analog to digital or digital to analog. This should be very helpful. I wish there was a clear detailed instruction like this when I was first starting out, because a lot of this stuff, yeah, you can figure it out on your own or through reading the manuals, but something about seeing it visually makes it super simple and straightforward. So let's get started. Okay, so here we go to get started. So this is the mix right here. The most important step, and this can definitely cause a headache if you don't double check this, is the I/O settings right here. So you have to make sure that when you're using Adats that you check your inputs, which are right here, and your outputs, which are right here, and make sure that the outputs are set as individual tracks. So you see I have mine selected all the way down from 1 to 16, and also check for stereo. So as you see, it's not highlighted. This would cause a problem later on if I'm sending anything out to those. So once you have that set up, hit apply and OK. So now what I've already done is I have my bus tracks already pre-selected. So I have my acoustic bus here, guitar bus, vocal bus, snare, kick, drum, etc. And what I do is manually set the outputs where I want stuff to go. So right here I have it set to Adat out 11. This will pop up manually after you set up your I's and O's. Here I have it set to Adat track 6. Right here I have it set to track 7 and 8, etc. So everything is pretty much set up. This one's set up to Adat 11 and 12 as of now. All right. So everything should be going out to Adat, and what I do is I check by hitting play. And when I'm not hearing sound, that's a great sign that all of the sound is being sent to the Adat out. How I'm going to check this is by going to my RME, which is right here. And now I can hit play and see that everything is being sent from the DAW to Adat 1, 2, Adat 3, 4, and so on. For this track so far, I only have Adats 1 through 12 selected. And as you can see, all of them are right here. Now, the next step is, if you're using RME 802, is to go through and click on each of these. And it should highlight the track of where it's receiving audio from. So right here at the bottom, this is what's actually being sent out to the unit itself. This is what's being sent out to the Alesis HD24. So, for example, this is Adat 3 and 4. If I want to lower the volume that's being sent out to the Alesis HD24, I would come here, and let's say I wanted nothing sent out. As you can see, now there's nothing being sent out. So this is like a pre-mixer before it hits the Alesis HD24. This is an extremely powerful tool, because if you have any issues with peaking, as you can see right here, these tracks are red. Instead of changing it on your DAW, let's say you're kind of happy with how the mix sounds on your DAW, you don't want to touch anything, you can actually come over to here, highlight the tracks where it's peaking. So this is 9 and 10. And as you can see, I've already done it. I took down -5 dB. That basically means when I recorded this track, it was recorded a little bit hot. I usually try to leave between -10 and -12 dB of headroom. But for this mix, it's going to be fine. If not, I can make some adjustments later on. But here, we can see if I were to set it back to 0, now it's going to be peaking on here and also on my Alesis. So I always like to clean this up by making sure I give myself some headroom. So as you can see, it looks like I've got an average of -10 to -6 dBs of headroom for this particular mix. I'll probably turn this down a little bit more. All right, and now we're all set, and it's time to check it on the Alesis. What I'm going to do also is I'm going to set my faders to 0 on the hardware, and when I'm listening back through my hardware with the faders at 0 and no extra gain given through my preamplifiers, I'm going to go through with the mixing board and listen to how it sounds just regular without making any adjustments on my DAW or on my RME. If I'm happy with how it sounds and I feel like I have enough headroom, I'm going to go ahead and start the mix. If not, separately off camera, I'm going to go through and turn down these faders until I can give myself enough headroom on my mixing board. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and we're going to move on to the next step, which is checking it and setting it up on the Alesis HD24. All I'm going to do is hit new song and then select yes, and then select the sample rate. For this song, I'm going to go ahead and do 44K because that's what it was recorded in. I'm going to hit new song again, select the number of tracks. I'll go up to 16, hit new song, and at this point I can name it if I want to. All right, now all I do is go through and select the tracks. Alright, so now it is set to record, and hit play on my interface. And as you can see, all of the tracks that we set up are going out. 1 through 11 as it is set up. Actually, it's going to end up being 1 through 12. And there we go. So now everything is set up and the sound is now going from the Alesis out into the mixing board. Now I'm going to go ahead and check it on my mixing board just to confirm. And what I'm also going to do when I'm ready is just hit play and record. And what that's going to do is it's going to record it into the Alesis HD24. So all of the music will be transferred from the computer to this device. I can go ahead and shut off the computer at that point and just hit play on here every time I want to have it play through my mixing board. I also have this little remote, which is super handy, and hit play. And as you can see, it's playing in the background. Stop it right here. I'm completely not using the computer, and as you can see, everything is stored here on the Alesis, playing it back perfectly and through the mixing board. So this is all set. All right, so as you can see, the mixing board is getting plenty of sound. So I'm going to go ahead and set up my mixing board. You can check out my video on how to set up a mixing board if you need tips about that. So I'm going to label the tracks and set it up, check how the audio sounds, and then begin the mix. As you can see, the sound is all going out to the master. So it's time to set up all the inputs and outputs, get the sound just the way that I want it without making any adjustments, and then go through and begin the mix. So these are my Adat cables. I'm going to be using the Adat to connect the DAW, the computer basically. Very simple. So I'm going to be going from out of the DAW into the Alesis. I'm going to be using lines 1 through 16. So as simple as that, nice and firm. And now you see way back here where I have the Adat out. I'm going to take those and match those like so. So I'm going to go out. There we go. Snaps right in. Now be careful with those that you're very familiar with your machine, because you can't end up breaking the ports and then you have a little bit of an issue. All right, so we're going to start off with the Alesis HD24. It's already plugged in. All right, so let's look at what we have here. Inputs at the top here. So the inputs go straight across 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way down to 24. Then we have the outputs. This is going to go to the mixer, 1 through 24. We have an Ethernet. We're not going to use Word M. We're not going to use. Actually, none of these we're going to use, except for we are going to use these ADATs. So the ADATs right here, we have ADAT 1 through 8, 9 through 16. I'm only going to use up to 16 tracks, so I'm going to stop right here. So because I'm going to be connecting it to the mixer, we're going to start off by connecting these cables to, and it's good to make sure that they're firmly put in, because if they are not, that is no fun. You're like, what happened? Why am I not getting sound? It's because they're not firmly pressed in. Now I'm going to switch this up because I like the color scheme to be a little bit different, just in case I am having trouble with the sound out of one of the channels in the mixer. I can quickly identify, oh, that's the red cable or the blue cable, whatever color it is, and quickly be able to locate it. Actually, so I'll do that right here. I'll switch this out. And it all just depends. You can use the same color all throughout, or you can switch it up a little bit. Always make sure these are nice and tight. So these can be kind of a pain sometimes, this shape. So I like to put these at the bottom. And it's best if you can to run a line test on every cable. So we're only going to go up to 16 tracks. So always make sure that everything's pushed in all the way. That way you can save yourself time later on from having to go through and troubleshoot. Sometimes I skip this step and do it really fast and I'm like, oh no, why am I not getting sound out of this line? Then I have to mute all the tracks and figure out what's going on. So these are all plugged into there. Now let's go back to the mixer. Now we have the mixer right here. A trick is you actually can use the insert ports as inputs by going in like halfway, and that will give you a great sound, but you won't be able to use the gain. So for this particular song, I'm gonna go ahead and use the insert ports. By using the insert ports, you can bypass the preamps, basically. Normally what you would do is you would use the line. However, I'm going to use the inserts so I can bypass the preamps and not have to use the preamps. That way I can hear the exact volumes that are coming from the DAW. So I'm going to plug it in by one. Now, because every cable is a little bit different, when you're using the insert port, one of the things that I have found is it varies a little bit. You may have to mess with it to make sure that you're getting the sound that you want. So always test it with your audio. So again, normally you would use your line ends, which are down here, but because I want to bypass, I'm going to use the insert ports. The only downside is when you use the insert ports, you can't use these as an insert port. So if I want to add effects like EQ or reverb or compression later on to the inserts, I will have to go through and move that to the line. What's the difference in the sound? I've noticed the sound is slightly more open when you use the insert port and you bypass the preamp. All right, so hopefully that helps. And now I'm about to start the mix. I hope you have an awesome, amazing, great rest of the day. Until next time, bye-bye.